So it's late summer, and now that it's starting to cool down and we're not getting as much daylight, there isn't as much weed pressure, but we definitely still have weed pressure. This kale was planted out several weeks ago, so it has time to size up and mature before we lose our 10 hours of daylight. Now I'll put it underneath the hoops here because I wanted to use exclusionary insect netting to make sure that the flea beetles and cabbage moths didn't come in and kind of decimate my crop. I try and keep the bed as weed free when I start as possible, but inevitably something is going to come up, especially in these high tunnels here where we have a lot of open sides and the weed seed can blow in pretty freely. But it's important to get the kale started with that exclusionary insect netting so we don't have that pest pressure in the early stages of its life. But now that it's starting to cool off and fall is really on the horizon, I took the insect netting off and it is time to go ahead and cultivate the bed. Now to do that, I'm going to leave these hoops in place because I don't have any reason to take them off, because eventually this stuff is going to need frost cloth. And so to do the cultivation, all I have to do with these is take off the upper portion of the hoop. And it's pretty easy. You just bend the hoop back and you let that top wire come across the front, and then you can take your cultivator tool here, and without having to remove any of the hoop, you just run your tool down the center of the rows here, pulling out any weeds that have germinated. And for this, I'm using the Mutineer hoe. I love using the offset wire because it is really rigid and it's wide and it fits perfectly down the width of my kale here. So here's what it looks like. Right, the roots of the weeds just wrap right around this tool and they just come right up. So when you lift the head of the tool up, you just peel them off and they come right off, and then you got the clean wire to go ahead and continue cultivation. But this cultivation here in the early stages of this weed growth is really important. But just as important, there isn't a lot of extra effort in removing the hoops because I know I'm going to have them back up here anyway shortly.